Good afternoon. Welcome to the Tuesday afternoon meeting of the BOCC. We have a couple things on the agenda today. We have Habitat for Humanity and budget workshop. We'll probably start and Habitat and not make them sit through all the budget stuff. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners and departments. Savannah Clement with Public Services. I came to the board a couple weeks ago with a local nonprofit, affordable housing agency, Habitat for Humanity, and they did a board presentation. You directed us to come back in a couple weeks after doing some homework. And so we're back. And all we're planning to do today is go over some of the needs that Habitat has identified. And I believe they had given you a handout previously. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today. It's just some of these high level needs. I know Gina James is here and I know David Berger is on the line for additional questions and guidance. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Molly to kind of give another brief overview and address the needs.
Good afternoon. Just to kind of recap, we kind of went over, what we do. Commissioner Weber, I know you weren't here, but you're very familiar with the organization. So I don't think I need to rehash much of that. And so I don't know where you guys want to start or how you want to do this and start the conversation. I don't know what type of research the county has done on your end.
Yeah, so I think just for the public, just kind of a recap that Cowlitz County Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit housing organization who works in partnership with low-income families in Cowlitz County to build safe, affordable housing. And I think that if there's no questions regarding the mission and overview, we can start talking about the prospects of what maybe David's discovered to share with the group in some avenues that maybe affordable housing agencies like Habitat for Humanity can pursue, and what that needs to look like from a procurement perspective. David, are you there?
Hi, yeah, I'm here. What were you wanting me to say? Can you repeat that?
Sure. Sorry. So we had kind of done a broad overview last time about some of Habitat's needs. They had some handouts that they gave the board on potential avenues to support. And I know that you had done some research regarding how an affordable housing agency like Habitat could move forward in that process. So I don't know if you want to give the board any of that feedback that you got.
Sure. I think just from the legal perspective, what I'm most concerned about is just following the statute. So I think the next step would be coming up with an RFP that Health and Human Services would create. And we would come up with a grant agreement that sort of spells out what's in the statute and what the requirements are in the statute. So for example, there's a certain percentage that has to be devoted to there's an extremely low income and very low income, and the priority has to be going to the extremely low income. And I don't have the full text of the statute in front of me, but the short version is RFP that we will need to submit, and then Habitat and any other housing organization or similar organization can submit a concrete proposal based on the RFP, and the RFP will have a lot of the requirements from the statute. We would have the form of the grant agreement that we would anticipate using, and then Habitat could submit a proposal in response to that the commissioners could review.
That I got a comment on that because when they were in here before, one of the things I kind of warned them at is when you take government money, then they want to tell you how to spend it. And I don't want to do that with Habitat. They have a good program. It works over there. And so then to have them fill out and then have to abide by all these goofy things that the state's going to require kind of defeats the purpose. What can we do that, I mean, can it be as simple as reimburse for fees that are through building and planning when they do a project, or on these homes where they're, I forget the name of the program, where people are in disrepair. They just need help to get their home back up to snuff. I mean, I don't want to put them in a program where all of a sudden the state is telling them, well, you got to do this, 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 and this. Defeats the whole purpose. So I need a little help from you, David. Where do we go with that? Or in your view, are we stuck with that?
I don't think it's micromanaging from the state. I don't think we need to worry about that so much as
And David, you had mentioned in one of your emails, Jefferson County had done something similar,
Right.
and actually awarded something to a Habitat for Humanity there. I'm not quite sure what that looked like, but it was something, to note that could be an option.
Right, yeah, I reached out to the chief civil deputy from Jefferson County, but I didn't get a response back to see what their what they used as an example. I mean, I don't have a recipe to follow about what exactly they can do. All I know is that, look at the statute, which is RCW 3622-250. That's what Habitat for Humanity needs to fit within for our document recording fees. So they can do whatever they want in their proposal as long as it fits within that statute. So it has to be consistent with our 5-year homeless plan. So they can look at that. And that includes increasing access to affordable housing units. And it also includes, the 5-year homeless plan includes supporting households and maintaining and preserving current housing. So I see Gina just stepped in. She might have more information.
You kind of know where I'm going, right?
Yeah, I do. I think so. Gina James, Health and Human Services. I just wanted to add, there are, when we look at allocating document recording fees, and we may potentially be able to look at the 1406 affordable housing funds as well. We used a combination of those funds when we awarded Hoswa and Campus Towers for their projects. And with the majority of the document recording fees, the primary, the statute says those fees have to be used for purposes identified on your local 5-year plan. There is a separate portion that really specifies low income and has an emphasis on that. But the larger portion says for uses in your 5-year plan. And I've talked to David a little bit about that, and we've kind of sorted through the areas of the plan that this type of project would connect with. And similar to the Hoswa and Campus Towers projects, I think it fits nicely. We're looking at getting some more information from other counties just to see how they're doing it and what they're funding, and those types of things. I've not been as very successful in getting information from other counties yet, but I think that it is pretty flexible and it's not tied to state contracting guidelines, for example. It is connected to a statute, but if we do it right, we can connect it to just the part that says, what's identified on your local plan. And affordable housing was the #1 priority on that local plan. So I think it fits nicely for a couple of different reasons. But anyways, all that to say, I think there's opportunity.
Okay. Maybe I'm the only one with that concern. I don't know. I've watched them and I've seen their success, and I don't need to tell them how to do their job.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the extra rules and regulations generally come with the housing trust funds and the connecting housing to infrastructure programs. That gets much more detailed. There's maybe more money available, but you lose a lot because you spend it on meeting all these other requirements.
Mhm.
The thing that I'm curious as to whether Habitat has some specific plans right now that they need help with.
Yes, so that's something that they have come together and developed with this handout that I gave you. And then Molly had some input actually from attending a state conference on affordable housing. Actually, a local agency had done land sales for low dollar, $1, $10 amounts. That has also happened throughout the state. I don't know if you want to explain that a little bit, Molly, as an option.
Sure. So I was at the State of Washington Housing Conference last week, and there were actually quite a few jurisdictions there and habitats from around the state. And they have a lot of them. Thurston County has really done a lot, Island County. But an example, Thurston County, the city of Olympia sold the Thurston County Habitat 10 acres for $1. They're also using their CDBG grant funds to like fund building, like whole like neighborhoods and stuff. And that's, that's not where our county is at, but there's ways, that if there's excess usable land somewhere that, we could, because finding land is an issue. We did just purchase some land on Church Street that will be able to build 14 homes on. But, we need the funds to do that and resources to do that. So that's going to be a slow process, but that is one we're working on. We also are getting ready to build our final house in Lexington. We've built a few homes out there, and this piece of land is going to take some extra developing to get it even ready before we can build. So, anything that you guys can do to help with that, or those are kind of our current
One of the
projects.
things that I think I would certainly be in favor of is on the issue of the permit fees,
Mhm.
using some of those the monies that we have available to, offset those. That could be those can mount up quite a bit.
Yes.
And the only other thing is, document recording fees has that flexibility with this how much ever we have left, which the amount is dwindling because our city partners are doing their own thing with them.
This is Mike Wilson, Cowlitz Building and Planning. A couple of items to your questions. Simplifying the building regulatory process, possibly reducing some fees. After conversation with Molly, she identified a couple of points that I thought we could make use of moving forward, as one of these days we're going to be adopting a new code, so I hear, next March. So 2 points, the redundancy of use of plans. Molly said they use a lot of floor plans that are very similar. They're the same, regardless. They put them in various places in the county. So I've modified the same as, or the replicable building plan model, so that these plans can be used redundantly without additional plan review. They'll just simply be used when they identify the model and so forth. So this will save money on plan review fee. It also streamlines the process, expedites the whole process of issuing the permit. Secondly, she identified the need for ramps, accessible ramps for houses. These are both items that we can use across the board for all, customers or the public in Cowlitz County. Ramps seem to be becoming a more, useful component of building. So we can establish a design that can be used redundantly. We already have some cut sheets for that use. We can charge just a flat fee that does not require plan review, and we can simply issue the building permit once they've identified what they want to do and where they want to do it. So these are two items that, not only assist them, but the general public, anyone applying for building permits. So it's not the broad strokes, the great grand things that you're discussing here, but they're little pieces that add to the big piece. So
We
That's it.
appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
welcome.
So I'm confused about a number of things. Just Mike, on the last thing you said, my understanding was if I bring you plans for a house in it's got so many square feet, and you immediately say your permit is going to cost you this. You didn't ask me in there, does it have a ramp or does it have a this or that?
Well, the building plans, we're talking about replicable plans. Molly identified that they use the same floor plans, or say they have 3 different plans and they use them in various locations within the county. Prior to this, we'd always been sort of shackled to replicable plans being used only in subdivisions. But that, you know, is that reasonable to hold it to that limitation or not? If the design can be useful regardless of its location in the county, why not do so? So they'll produce a plan that, as any other builder can do, that they are going to use a model A, B, or C. Those will be reviewed once and maintained on file. So they apply for building permit and they'll just do the same thing over and over again.
I think I understand that, but that wasn't answering my question. My question was, if I give you a plan for a house, it's sort of a normal stick-built kind of thing, and it's 2,000 square feet, you will just say that's going to cost you this much for
Correct.
for a permit. It doesn't, nothing factored in there that said it's model A, B, C, or D. And I'm not sure I want to constrain Habitat to one of 3 models. That goes a little bit into what Mr. Dahl was saying. We want to give them, we don't want to shackle them anymore. So anyhow, that was one question I'm not sure I understand that. That would be a big help. Then my other question is, I think my colleague's question about, I'll translate that into, what's the priority of things you need? I think you started out saying we want land, but then you have just purchased land for 14 homes. And if I recall the numbers, you build 2 to 3 homes a year.
Yes, that's true.
So I
was-
would guess you're not short of land at this point. You're short of other things.
Yeah, that is true. I was just giving an example, one example of what jurisdictions are doing to work with habitats. Obviously, funding is the biggest thing we need, because it costs money to build homes and it costs money to have, we have a very limited staff, just due to funding. So, you know, and the payments, we finance all of the homes at 0% interest. And the payments that we get from homeowners go directly into, you know, funding to build the next home. But, you know, prices have gone up and it's just hard right now.
Okay, I think I understand that. And then Gina mentioned things about, well, certainly David also mentioned things about the 5-year plan. Now, we're overdue on the update of the 5-year plan, are we not?
We'll be diving into a big update this next year.
So we're actually outside our 5 years, right?
I think the end of this year is 5 years, and the state sort of gave us a timeline for
All right.
submitting. an
And
update.
then in the past, I remember we were discussing something, and we went back and amended the 5-year plan so that we could proceed with that. So that's not out of the question either.
No,
Okay, thank you.
no. And I do have, after the last discussion, I've started drafting an RFP, just to be ready. We worked with David last year when we did the affordable housing RFP where we awarded Hoswa and Campus Towers. So I took some of that and started drafting a new RFP for this year, updating some of the language. So I'm ready to move forward with that if the board's interested in that.
And then I think we consumed all of our 1406 funds up to a certain point. But by that, I mean, for Campus Towers, I think we used 1406 funds.
We did. We had awarded, at that time, we had put in the RFP what we had collected at that time. So it's been collecting since. So we have about $280,000 of the 1406 funds that have been collected since then.
And if I understand correctly, then that's pretty much a no strings attached grant that we could give to, say, Habitat if we wished.
As long as what they're going to do with it meets the RCW for the funds, yes, and that's,
Right.
we had worked
And-
with David on those grant agreements. For that.
And I'm asking you by your assessment, it would certainly qualify, or you would expect it would.
I think it's very similar, yes.
Okay, yeah, and then for David, a question. I know we lease a house near the morgue for $1 a year or something like that. And anytime I have a grandiose plan, I'm told by you folks that you can't do that. So because it's gifting of public funds or something like that. Do we have such constraints? Like if we had a 5-acre parcel somewhere, could we lease it out for $1 a year on a 99-year lease? And that then for Habitat, would that be useful?
I'd have to look into that one more, probably talk with Doug, who's more up on the certain land use stuff in the county, but usually the constitutional prohibition on gifting of public funds has an exception for the poor and the infirm. And so the whole concept of the grant agreement and the homelessness funds is sort of geared towards that exception of, the poor and infirm. So, I mean, much of what's in this grant agreement is essentially like a gifting, but it's consistent with the Constitution for how it's set up in Washington. And briefly, just to go back to what you previously were saying about the 5-year homeless plan, it looks like it was updated in 2021, and the 5-year plan goes from December 2019 to December 2024. So it's actually good through this next December.
And back to the leasing, now the Janus house doesn't fit any of the categories we've talked about.
Which house? I'm not familiar with this house by the coroner's office.
Yes, it's down next to where the coroner's building is. There's actually 2 houses down there that the county owns, and they're leased. I think both of them are leased for I'm not involved in the lease,
Yeah.
but I believe they're $1 a year.
But it's kind of a respite, the temporary respite. It's like kind of a semi boys and girls club, but it shuts down in the evening. I don't think anybody stays there.
Right. So it's like a day drop-in center for homeless youth.
Those are the words I needed. Thank you.
And I think the assumption is if they're homeless youth, they have no income, therefore they qualify for that gifting or that special beneficiary benefits.
Except we don't, yeah, okay. I'm fine with that. Just trying to understand.
Now, if we had a parcel on a riverbank and we wanted to lease it to the chairman of the board for $1, that wouldn't count because we know his salary doesn't fit the guidelines.
Don't get the chairman in this.
Can't restrict public access to the water, so you couldn't do that.
Even more.
If that were possible, we would have each of us nominating each other for chairman.
Then Mike would have to give me one of those machines so I could fill it out. Yeah, right. So I think your question to us was if we had had the flavor to entertain an RFP that Habitat would have the chance to put in.
Yeah, and I think
I know from this seat I would. I'm not going to speak for my colleagues, but
A question about that. Did Campus Towers go through an RFP process?
yes,
Okay.
both did. And I think we've heard interest from a couple different entities. I know we've heard from Habitat. We've heard about what is it called? The West Main and Catlin, the Kelso project.
oh, yeah.
Forgetting what that's called.
I know what you're referring to. I don't remember the name. The
Yeah.
Senior,
Kelso Commons, wasn't that something like that?
Right, the
Yeah.
community center down below with apartments up above. So we've heard from them. We've heard from, you and I met with, an agency a couple of weeks ago talking about a housing project. So I think there's some interest out there from different agencies. So yes, if there's interest from the board to issue an RFP, we can have that ready.
I know several years ago, CAP operated self-help housing, where the construction costs were by the neighbors getting together and helping each other out. Sometimes that's referred to as urban homesteading. They found it too difficult to organize subdivisions. That's the basis on it. And so they don't do that anymore. Exactly. They do housing rehab projects. Is Habitat doing anything with requiring the clients to help build the house?
Yes, that's a huge part of the program. They have to help the whole way through. They have to put in at least 1,200 hours of sweat equity
Mhm.
between themselves, family and friends, to help building the home. So that's a huge part of the program.
So that might be one of the points to add to an RFP to encourage more self-help type housing. I've always been impressed because that gives them a buy-in to the house. It's not something just given to them. They've actually earned their way.
Right.
And I
we
think it
makes
makes a big difference with.
Yeah, it's more of a
housing
hand up
stability.
than a handout,
Yeah.
and they put in so much work. I
Yeah.
mean,
I think,
it's,
You know, senior housing is a little bit different, I think.
Yeah.
So that's different. And we've done senior housing with campus towers, but
yeah, we are also working with Habitat International, who is kind of the umbrella over everything. Looking at their aging in place program, where kind of the same thing with our Brush with Kindness program, keep them in the home, fix up the home, what needs to be done, whether it's a ramp or roof repair or something like that, so that seniors can stay in their homes. But
And that was a question that I just wanted to make sure I brought up for the Brush with Kindness program, which is already helping homeowners. I didn't know if that was needing to be differentiated with an RFP where we're talking about affordable housing or new housing versus existing homes and like refurbishing. And so I just want to make sure I brought that up for purposes of drafting the RFP and make sure either they're together or separate, if the board was still interested in the Brush with Kindness program as well.
well, I think there's a huge need for that too. Probably even, I don't know for sure, but it seems like that might even be larger as the seniors have trouble keeping up with their homes and stuff.
I would split that into two RFPs, just,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
like keeping things apart. Perspective, I'm looking for perspective if we, what's the sum of money that would be useful to you, but not, how do I ask that question? If we gave you
and spent in a reasonable amount of time. You don't want to give them an award that they don't have staffing to do.
all of the above and for, it's, so
How much?
what kind of dollars would you hope that you'll walk away from an RFP at some point?
well, it costs us around, 228,000 to build right now to build a 3-bedroom home. That's just the construction cost and not staffing. And right now, we're getting ready to build our next home, and we're not sure, if we're going to be able to do that right away or have to hold off because of funding.
How much did you say for a 3-bedroom?
228,000 was the construction cost, and then land was, we got a deal on some land from the church out in Lexington. So we were able to get 4 lots out of that, and it was 25,000 a piece for the land cost. Could I get back to you on the amount? I
Yeah,
mean, I know what I would love to say, but I don't want to do exactly what you just said. So,
right.
more
No,
than we
that's
need
fine.
and-
I
yeah.
I try and ask questions that allow you the latitude to compose
Right.
a reasonable answer. Just as feedback, I'm looking at, what size house is this, like a 2,000 square foot house?
It's around 2,000 square feet, 1,800, 2,000 square feet. We only, the lowest we go is 2-bedroom. And then we build all the way up to a 5-bedroom, depending on the size of the family. They, of course, have to meet the income requirements, 30 to 65%. And the most common we do is 3 bedrooms usually because of size of families and
What's your annual budget? I know you have fundraisers, you're raising money all the time.
That actually would be a question for Diane, the CEO. I'm
Okay.
fairly new to this, but she had her dad actually is in ICU unexpectedly. And so she's out of town right now and wasn't able to make it. So I just want to make sure I give you the exact correct information. And
I'm
so if I could.
I always prefer leveraging the county's dollars with other contributions.
Right.
So that's the only reason I was asking, is see if there's a way to get a bigger bang for the dollar.
Right.
Could
Yeah.
make it multiply.
In-
And it
and we
kind of
do
goes,
do
and it goes
fundraisers.
reverse as well. For every dollar somebody gives it.
Right, yeah,
leveraged.
no, we have some very generous donors, and volunteers. Some of that went away with COVID, so we're working on trying to build that up as well. But we definitely do fundraisers and things like that. Businesses within the county, Steelscape is huge, really supports us, P&E, some other ones. So we've built some partnerships there and working on a couple others.
I would, I'll offer a thought. I'm not calling it a suggestion, but an RFP that cover both the construction and rehab of some elderly. Once again, I'm speaking for myself, but if I saw a RFP of $500,000 and half was to build and half was to rehab, I wouldn't blink too hard.
Yeah, that something like that would be wonderful. And there's also the handouts we left last time we were here on, there's some grants that come up as well, just that cover like infrastructure and things like that from the Department of Commerce, and they're no match grants. But a municipality has to apply on your behalf and we kind of have to partner. So as those things come along, if we could maybe work together on that as well, as they come up, just to keep those lines of communication open and if it works for everyone.
Just another semi-incidental question. Are you thinking, 2,000 square feet is a pretty nice house. My first house was 900.
Right.
And Savannah's nodding, yeah, my house was 850.
I think you build them based on the people in the family.
The size of the
'Cause
family, yes.
They're not built and then find a family
No,
and you
no,
find
no.
that you have a family, then you,
And then we decide, okay, this is the family that's been chosen.
yeah.
They have 4 people in their family or 5 and there's 2 boys and like there's certain ages that can share a room or whatever. And it's, they're not all 2,000 square feet. Some are 1,800 to 2,000 and then 2 bedrooms can be 1,200 to 1,500 square feet.
See, that's sort of what I'm thinking. You can get 2 houses at 1,250 or 1 house at 2,500.
Mhm.
And but you
I see
answered
where
it
you're
quite nicely, yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. I see what you're saying.
So we should see some RFPs.
Yes, so I can
Good with
put,
that?
yes, I can put that together. I'll base it off of kind of the one we did last year with affordable housing. When we did that one, we included the 1406 funds that we had. And then we also referenced document recording fees. We didn't include a specific amount. We just referenced the fees to give us flexibility to include them in an award if we decided to do that, or if you decided to do that.
Yeah.
So I can go that route again, just to give flexibility and go
Okay.
from
Yeah.
there.
And just so we're very, trying to be very transparent, we're talking with Habitat for Humanity today, but when you throw an RFP out there, it's not limited. It doesn't say only Habitat can
No.
apply.
It
So,
will be open to everyone. It will get
so it's still
posted.
a competitive process.
It's a competitive process. It will get posted and go out and notice and whatnot. Would the board like to review the RFP before it gets posted?
I think that's advisable. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
so we'll be back with an RFP.
Before I let you go, I thank you. I won't take any more of your time, but the last time we had Habitat in, we also talked with Community House, and my commitment to Frank at the time was that I wanted to hear what others had to offer, but that I would broach his request too and ask the board about what they thought about that. He came in, Commissioner Weber was gone that day, attended a meeting for us over in Ellisburg, if I remember right. He drew the short straw. So Frank had come in with I think it was an estimate of about 2.5 million, what they were having trouble with. They had the grant money from the state, but to get the grant money from the state, certain things had to be done, and they were kind of in a gap and they were asking us to kind of fill that gap so money would come again. Am I kind of remembering that right?
Yeah, I think they were short pretty close to 2.5, and they were asking for 2.1.
Yeah. And I don't know that we have that much to give, but I am interested in the board's flavor on trying to help him with that gap so we can continue with construction on the other. And I told him I would broach that subject, so
And I'll
I
add,
am.
if the board were interested in doing that, we operate off of the same reimbursement model the state does. And so they would have to expend the funds and then submit for reimbursement.
So it may not help what he has a need for anyways.
It may, I mean, I'd have to talk to him a little bit more to figure that out, but I just wanted to make sure we all knew that he would have to expend it and then submit reimbursement to us with the receipts.
Yeah, as it's difficult for me to talk about this for the numbers involved, it works out to about $335,000 per door, per house. I'm not sure what the right term is. And I just cannot escape the feeling that we have conflated a bunch of items in there between supplying housing and then supplying welfare system. To me, there are just a lot of questions that I would want to have answered, and it's not like the monies are plentiful, but I think Frank should be here to try and discuss that more.
Yeah, I know he had some surgery, so I'm not sure how he's getting the.
He's due surgery on October the 25th. And he was pretty well hobbling last time we saw him.
Yeah. Well, I try to stick by what I tell people, and I told him I would talk about it. And if we really have no interest in that, that's fine. We can tell them that there are people that wouldn't agree with us, but I want to, if we do, and we want to bring Frank in and have that discussion, I'm more open to it. I just want to be able to tell him one way or the other that.
So I know that I wasn't here for the initial discussion, although I have been given the Frank Morrison treatment in terms of tours of the facility. I don't say that critically because he's a fantastic personality. The only kind of reservation that I have with the idea of a youth shelter is some red flags that have waved in the back of my mind. Having been here a long time, I remember when there was a considerable amount of money raised in the community by, I think they were the orthopedic guilds, for something called the Toutle River Boys Ranch, a residential facility for at-risk boys. And that operated for quite some time. And then it got shut down for some reason. I don't know the reasons why. I can only imagine the state intervened. I spent 6 years of my teaching career working at an alternative high school with at-risk students. And they are an interesting collection of adolescents, some who are very emotionally fragile, and some who are very angry, and some who have incredibly gifted skills at manipulation. And I would imagine any group of at-risk youth could have those same kinds of dynamics, which could be risky to have in a residential setting. And the last thing is as a member of the Rotary Club, I've been involved with foreign exchange students. And I know that the Rotary International has some very strict guidelines for youth protection that not only protects youth from bad things happening, theoretically, at least to have the plan, and it also safeguards the adults who are supervising them, caring for them. I would want to be assured that the community house program for their youth shelter has in place those kinds of safeguards so that we can, to the best of our ability, make sure it is a safe place. I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't want everything to be very safe, but you really do need to have it written down in a plan and a process and a procedure to handle all those different kinds of clashes that will happen. Gosh, I had 3 daughters who were teenagers at the same time, even within one family. It's an interesting mixture. So I would hate for us to be funding something that turns out to perhaps be worse than what was currently the possibility. It's just a fear that I have. And I'm saying, man, if I can get that assurance, I'm all in. It's not that big of a facility, so it's not going to be a huge expense, but it can meet the need. We just want to make sure everybody involved is safe.
That's exactly one of the things that, probably one of my bigger concerns, just the liability when you're dealing with youth and how do you protect that or protect yourselves and protect the youth. So I agree with Commissioner Weber that I'd want to be comfortable with that. And I think it's probably worth having another conversation if Frank's open to it.
I do happen to notice Assessor Wilcox in the audience. She was a childhood friend of my daughter's. I was not implying you were all a bunch of at-risk kids.
Yeah, strangely enough, I think in this kind of thing, what I've seen Frank do, I'm not really that concerned over that. I think he knows how to do those things. I'm more overall thinking about what you might call opportunity, the costs, and then there's a model there. Kids dropping in and dropping out is something I would discuss. How helpful is that? But specific, I asked whether a 1,250 houses would be more useful than a 2,500 square foot house. The same thing. We have a situation where we can accommodate 24 people for $8.1 million. And if I try and put this in perspective, my head just spins out of control. What if we could, for the same amount of dollars, get 4 times the number? That would be maybe having a greater impact than otherwise. And so I think it's not that we don't want to help youth. We want to do so in a way that if we integrate over society, we actually are making quite a dent. And I don't see this as being able to do that. The dollar perspective is pretty interesting. You know, the average per capita income in some places is 2,000 a year. For 8.1 million, we could pay somebody's salary, 4,000 people for that kind of money. I'm not saying that I would spend the money on non-capital stuff, you know, the ongoing expenses. I think the chairman has mentioned he's against that, and I agree with him. Let's not forget also, in addition to the capital costs here, there's the ongoing maintenance costs, and they were estimated at 1.8 million a year. That's still a lot of money.
Well, and maybe it's at a point where actually we're the ones that need to do a workshop and hammer out kind of guidelines we would see in that type of facility, and maybe that's a better starting point than you know, just working with one place.
Agreed, and that kind of outlook applies to a lot of other things I've often asked. I've never gotten an answer. Is how much are we as a society of Cowlitz County willing to pay per capita for? Like, I did an analysis several years ago about taking care of the homeless, and I used Seattle numbers for the cost, and I used the estimated homeless here in the county, and I would have had to knock on every family of 4 household in Cowlitz County and ask them if they chip in an extra $1,500 a year. And you know what they would do to me if I came in their door and said, I'm going to raise your property taxes by $1,500.
Well, I think that's always the crux that I struggle with at times too. I don't think there's anybody sitting up at this table or anybody in the office, in the audience, that doesn't want to help somebody that needs the help and wants to have help. My deal is when I'm taking it from somebody's wallet, and I need to be as efficient and frugal and responsible as I can for doing that. And that's always top of mind. And how do we do that? So maybe it would be best if the commissioners, if we do a workshop, public is always invited to workshops, and I wouldn't mind hearing their thoughts on that and us sharing our thoughts and try and hammer out kind of a guideline we would look for if somebody wanted to do.
Agreed.
You guys be agreeable with that? Okay. That's probably enough of that conversation, but we'll do something like that. And then if entities want to come and express some of that, you know, we'll try and broadcast it so we get some participation.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good. In the meantime, I'll be back with an RFP.
Okay. Thank you once again for coming. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys listening to us and giving us this opportunity to talk about this. So thank you for your time.
Mhm. Okay, Kathy.
Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. We're going to be in our notebooks on tab 16, and today's workshop is about personnel.
I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm just saying that I know Commissioner Weber has a meeting at
Okay.
3:30. So if he gets up and leaves, it's not because he doesn't like you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we have a summary. You had asked me the other day, how many positions. So there's a total of, and one area has been amended a little bit. So there's 13 positions that are requesting funding. And then there are a few reclasses that are requesting reclasses, salary title change that are requesting funding. So a total of 13 new types of funding positions overall. And if you're okay, and I've given you tabs for each one, but I've had a request to ask for the clerk area for me to go over that one first, if that's okay.
Let me get a quick question. That's on the on this long sheet,
Yes,
and you said 13 or 15?
I said 13. And the other day I told y'all less than 20,
Okay, here I see,
between 15 and 20.
here I see 15.
Well, one's been amended, so I'm gonna go over it.
Okay,
I have a question also, just when we'll take the clerk, okay? In their area, do we have to be involved in what everybody's called? I mean, if we're in the clerk's office and say, okay, we're okay with the budget of this, and she thinks I need 3 people with clerks and a couple of other title, are we involved in it, that every decision? Is it because it falls in a pay scale that we get involved in all that? I mean, I don't pretend to know what the clerk's office needs to know how to do the job. I guess I'm just asking a question,
Yeah,
if
so
that's how
today-
we look at it.
Yeah, so today we're submitting, they actually submitted the particular title position that they were requesting. That was up to the individual departments to submit that.
Yeah,
And then those are slotted, of course, into our appropriate pay scales, pay grades.
so,
I think the answer to your question is the board has a statutory obligation to manage the budget. And we tend to do that at major milestone points. Beyond that, so the justification for some amount of dollars that we would say the clerk has, then the clerk can do a lot within that with some constraints that that Kathy would explain. So you can't promise us to hire 4 people and then just end up on vacation in Hawaii all year or something like that. But
yeah,
so this is our only mechanism on the electeds, the departments.
okay.
And I agree with you. How do we know how many clerks you need?
Yeah, it just feels strange and I'm
Yeah.
approving when I don't work over there. I don't know what the clerk does and I'm approving these positions. But if it's for the purposes, this is kind of how we arrive at the budget because we take these salaries and stuff. I can understand that a little better. I just,
It evolves around what is it you're adding to the county's budgetary dollars amount?
so the way I should look at it is just more global.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the budget stuff we've seen before has no cost of living in it.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so we have to keep that in mind. It could be quite significant.
Yes. And also for the purposes of this, I'm giving you not only the positions budgeted amount, but I'm also giving you the estimates of the other associated benefits that go with those positions. And then in one particular case for our sheriff's office, they've also estimated one-time cost. Should they add that position, the other cost for equipment and gear and
Yeah,
things like that.
I see.
So,
Yeah,
so we're trying to give you the dollar impact of these,
of each position,
each position. Mhm.
which is appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, so on the clerks, we have a tab for you, and on the clerks area, I just wanted to make sure that you had a little perspective also from the budget standpoint. They have a total of 21 positions. And they have an additional 2 positions that previously to this were approved under ARPA fund reimbursement. And so that's a little bit of history. And they currently, as of this week, they, according to our PeopleSoft records, they have 2 open positions. And then their request in summary, and this is the one that's been amended. So I believe they're asking for 3 deputy clerk positions and 1 office manager. And Stacy is here to explain anything, any questions you might have about her request. So instead of a total of 6, it is a total of 4 positions.
I've learned my lesson. I don't argue against Stacy.
That's not true.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
I said, that's not true.
You mean I argue against you?
Not against me. We can argue with.
Very good. Thank you.
My requests are pretty straightforward. I don't know if you have any questions, but
Overall, does your request have any interaction with any other departments then?
well, we interact with Superior Court closely, so
Right.
it kind of goes hand in hand. We have to staff their courtrooms and support the judges, so we did this like a couple of weeks ago where there was the roundabout with how many clerks does it take to support the judge and a 6 judge versus court commissioners, so we just need staff to make sure that we can cover the necessary court duties that are mandated to us.
Isn't the answer about the same regardless? Because the same amount of clerking work needs to be done if you're going to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if it's a judge or a court commissioner, you're still in the. courtroom.
So if we were to change our minds and authorize a 6th Superior Court judge, it wouldn't change this.
It would or wouldn't?
It would not change this.
No,
Okay.
When you put these together, do you have, you say, when you look at this, if I have this staff, I'm good for the next, unless business quadruples or something, I'm good here for now. The next 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
I'm also looking at a lot of succession planning. We have several staff in the office that are on the verge of retirement, so we need to start preparing for that. That's part of the request as well, is that when those veterans leave, we're gonna have big shoes to fill, so we got to get started on that right away.
That seems prudent.
Yeah. I don't know that I have many questions. I kind of trust she knows how the department, all these people, I kind of trust that they know how their department works and.
So I think I might have missed something just now. You said that if we added a new judge, you wouldn't have to. If we added a new judge and took away the court commissioner, you wouldn't need an additional clerk.
Yes, because we're currently using court.
Right, because
commissioners.
it's the
So,
same.
yeah, it's the same, essentially.
Um,
We only have so many courtrooms.
Then I heard you mention that you anticipate several folks retiring. And so you want to hire more people to prepare for the transition. Does that mean when the retirees happen, you won't be coming to us to replace the
I'll want to
retirees?
refill those positions.
Yeah, okay, so I'm not
Well,
sure.
We'll refill those
Uh,
positions, but I need to fill them. I want to fill the 3 that I'm asking for, the deputy clerks now, because we've got enough work already. And we have to be able to absorb that work when they leave well enough that we can hold on until we get replacements hired.
How soon are they retiring?
Hmm?
How soon do you expect a retirement?
I don't have any certainties. I have had
Yeah.
one that has just said that she's looking at it. No certain dates.
I mean, I like the idea of preparing succession and, I think we've offered a number of times where we've doubled up for a temporary period of time. But that's not a permanent increase. And you're asking for
Right.
permanent
No, I'm
increase.
asking for a permanent increase.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm throwing the succession in with that
Sure.
permanent increase. Because of like I said, we're losing longtime employees and I need to get people up to speed.
If I could, I appreciate your question and what it the way I look at that is whenever you add staff, certainly that's a fairly significant increase. And we could be overdoing it. We could be underdoing it. The overdoing it is harder to take care of in a reasonable fashion. But if somebody retires, I trust you'd come to us and say, yeah, we're good. But the continuation of the knowledge is pretty danged important.
Else?
So the increase of 3 would represent what percent increase in the deputy clerk positions?
What I said, we currently have 21.
Yeah, you currently have 21 total positions in the clerk's department. So 3 positions is a little over
14.
About 15%, yeah.
15% of total. And then the new
And
total,
The reason, to me, the reason that's important is that there should be some data that would suggest that there's been an increase in business of that amount. And
Keep in mind, we took on the juvenile department court duties. So we just replaced 3 administrative assistants from the juvenile department. We took the court duties away from them. So that right there is a huge increase in the workload.
So you took those over and you took those positions, then they're still working. They don't have any work to do.
Oh, I wouldn't
Or-
say that. There's 2 of them now. One of them has left and they're not under my department. I don't know
Okay.
what those. But they still have 2 positions over there. Their work was not entirely court related. They did administrative tasks as well for Superior Court.
Okay.
And the addition, court schedules, if you look at the court schedules, we went from in 2021, we were looking at support for 35 dockets, hearings, trials type of things in a week's time. We've gone up to 39 now. So that's a big jump for what we're looking at because it's virtual courtrooms still require the same amount of clerk work as if it's a physical courtroom. And we've added 2 of those.
the total dollar impact of her request is about $525,000, taking the 2 positions off.
Yeah, the only trouble I see with any of the way we're going about this is that everybody has a viable argument or they wouldn't be here. And if you do them piecemeal and you add them all up, all of a sudden you say, oh, I can't really do that. And I don't know how to combat that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this because I think primary function of us is law and justice, and we spend a fortune there as it is. And things don't go too well if the clerks don't have everything in order.
Because, and I think if I remember correctly, since you joined as clerk, we have recognized that you were understaffed traditionally, and that we've been playing catch up for quite a while.
You look at the statewide,
But one of these years, you're gonna get caught up.
one of these times,
Never.
we can hope.
I did notice during the pandemic, though, when business in general, all of justice went down, staffing needs were right up there.
We got a lot of work done that we wouldn't otherwise get done.
Yeah.
That allowed us to do a lot of our archiving, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I think the next one we're going to jump to is Superior Court. Their request came in before they made their presentation, special presentation about the sixth judge. And with that, they had the sixth judge request for 2025 and an administrative position to support that judge. And then they're also going to be here to talk about drug court request as well.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Judge Basher, Superior Court Presiding Judge. I'm here really on behalf of Superior Court and District Court as it relates to drug court. I heard a couple comments earlier that are, I guess, on point. Our budget, as we've proposed it, does include a sixth judge position in 2025. We were here previously and talked with the board, and there wasn't, at that point at least, a lot of appetite in pursuing that through the legislature. That option is still open probably till about the 1st of December. So if there is a change of heart with the board in that position, that does in reality save the county about $49,000 in local money. There is an increase in state money, which is shared with all citizens of the state of Washington. So those are savings to all of our constituents here. So that is still in our budget. We plan to leave it there because if it's not approved to go forward at this point, we'll be back next fall asking again because we think it's a critical function of what we need to do. The JA position, judicial assistant position, that is the administrative support for that judge, as we indicated during our presentation last time, that is really in the budget for visibility. We would expect, should the board approve us to move forward, should the legislature approve it and we get the sixth judge, we would then make an evaluation of our actual needs based on as this board's aware, we did a fairly significant reorganization of our staffing, and we don't have a judicial assistant per judge currently. We have some different management structure, which is working well as long as we could actually hire people to fill all the positions. But our proposal on that would be is to come back next fall and actually bring that before the board should we feel we actually need it. We don't know if we need it because we aren't fully staffed yet. So that's those two positions are there. I won't go into a lot of detail, but it was an interesting comment, Commissioner, that that seems to be at least at the forefront of some people's thoughts. We would request that the board approve us to move forward with the legislature. I recognize there's some philosophical issues with that. We think it's the best way for us to address the county's needs. Before I move on to the drug court stuff, any particular questions about that? We've hashed out this quite a bit, and I don't know if there's anything additional you'd like from me on that. Okay.
Yeah, if I might.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm on the right page. You've got administrative deputy 2.
Correct. That would be a judicial assistant, and that would not be something we'd be asking for an approval at this point.
Okay,
That's more in there for visibility. If we felt we needed it after we get fully staffed, we want to be.
And the lead admin?
That's existing in our it's not a filled position right now because we haven't been able to fill that position.
Okay, that's the one you've had open for a while?
Correct. We're still pursuing filling the existing staffing, and yeah, that's a challenge for every department that sits here in front of you, is finding people to sit in the seats that we have.
How do you operate without that individual now? How is that lack made up?
Well, it means people work extra hours, things don't get done. We work in a perpetual state of chaos trying to stay on top of everything.
Okay, so if I could trace that to additional expenses elsewhere.
Well, for right now, we are paying one of our juvenile staff people overtime to help cover some of the management, or not the management, but the financial duties that we have to do in Superior Court, because when she moved from our office to that office, we've not been able to replace that position. That work still has to be done. We have to pay our visa bills every month when those come through, and grants, those types of things.
And with this person, that would go away.
The position wouldn't go away. She's being paid through juvenile court. But
The overtime
would go
or the
away.
overwork.
Correct.
The court investigator, I think we've talked about that before.
That's been approved. It's been funded.
Right.
We have a person, I believe, who's starting Monday.
So in the numbers, Kathy, that you present, the
Yes,
13 additional staff. Are
13 staff are what they are currently authorized for. And they have, and three
Oh,
of
no, I'm
those are
sorry,
vacant.
the other 13, that was 15. Are these positions in that 13? So
No,
that's not a
no.
proper count?
No, they're not.
That's a real 13.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, where the court investigator, that was approved, I believe, last year, maybe even the year before, and it took us a
Yes.
very long time to fill that.
Yes.
It has been, we've now hired that person. They'll be starting, I believe it's on Mondays.
Yeah, just how many court investigators do you have?
That would be our first.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's overdue, isn't it?
Well, we used to have family court. We had 2 full-time investigators. That was 10 years ago, 9 years ago, maybe. There was a push from the board to not have that office, so we kind of went away from that. And at the same time, the state mandated for counties of our size to have a guardian ad litem registry if we were going to use those folks. So we transitioned to that. That's been a useful tool, but we don't have the immediate responsiveness that we sometimes need on an immediate court order. And that's what this investigator will be focusing on, is safety for kids on family law cases. So, but that's not a new position.
No, it just, it doesn't, it hasn't, because as of this time, it hasn't been assigned a position number yet because
Oh.
it's brand new.
Okay,
It's never been filled.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's been in our budget for
Yes.
a year at least.
Yep.
So
And
that's into 13
That's in the 13 that they currently have authorized. Mhm.
and into 13 of the.
Of the all, the
of new
requests that
fill
were,
position. Yeah, the request.
no, it's not in the,
Okay.
it's not in that.
That's what you
because they've
said
already-
before. I'm just
they've-
checking.
Yeah, they've already been authorized for that position.
And the 13 you proposed at the beginning of your report is really only 11 for next year. Because 2 of them were in the 25. That's the judge and
No,
the,
it's 13. It's 13. Because, well, I'm sorry.
you had
Yes,
15
yes.
and the clerks took out 2. That's down to
Yes.
13. But the
And-
judge and the deputy
Right.
is not
Correct.
until 25. So
Right.
we're down to just 11 for this year.
Just 11.
Next year.
Just 11.
One comment on that is that the judicial position for 25 will not happen unless we move forward with the legislature this year. If that judge position were to be approved in a process to the legislature, our budget that you have for Superior Court would decrease in our court commissioner budget by about 200,000. That's our proposal. So we would be decreasing that money and paying for the judge position, which I'm working off the top of my memory here from, I think it's about 113,000 local funds. All benefits on a judge are paid by the state, of course, as well as the other half of the salary. And again, the judicial assistant position, that's not on the table for today. It's there for your visibility for when we come back next fall. So, and again, if you're interested, I'd be happy to come back either later today, next week, whenever you're interested to talk about a 6-judge approval process going forward. But I'll wait to hear from you on that. On the drug court, I know there's some folks in the back here who came who'd like maybe want to comment on this request, but we have 2 drug court case aide or case manager positions that are sitting before you on our request today. One of those is a position that was approved prior to COVID, and we were about to hire that position at the beginning of COVID. I believe the last time we were, at some point we were here, we gave you some tables showing drug court population, and in 2020, we were in the 100 range, 90 to 100. We then during COVID, due to the graduations and lack of new people coming in, we decreased way down. Adam decided not to hire anybody because our caseloads were dropping. So we put that kind of on hold, waiting for caseloads to come back up. They've come back up. We're now nearing 100 again. As of January 1, we're proposing our court schedule to go to 2 half-day drug courts instead of 1 half-day drug court because of the volume. So we're asking to have the position that was previously authorized simply funded going forward in 2024. Correct. And again, we're not sure why that was taken out of the budget. It was in there for a while, and then for some reason the funding disappeared, but the position did not disappear. So we always thought it was there, but we're just here to make sure we get approval to hire the person that we need to do that job.
And that's listed on your summary list as reactivate. In our budget, it was put below the direct labor line. And so it was deactivated and it wasn't funded in the budget. It would mean that position would be picked up and now funded. So I'm including it as a new request, even though it's just reactivating a previously authorized position. But it has a budget impact, and that's why I'm listing it for full disclosure.
Yeah, makes sense.
And one thing I will comment on that is, we recognized obviously our caseload was dropping. We didn't have the work that we had justified that position with. Adam made this decision within his department that he did not choose to fill that position because we couldn't justify it. So we didn't. Now that the caseloads are coming back up to where they were pre-COVID, we're simply asking to get the staffing that we needed at that time.
Yeah. Question, Adam, on drug court. When I see it over there and I'm looking at a sheet that I got from Gina, and it says therapeutic courts, drug court, community court, hope court, safe court. Is that all under drug court?
That's all therapeutic courts. Yeah,
So- So
drug court
this here covers all of that.
that covers all of it except
Okay.
community court. It's no longer, that was a district court program and it's no longer in function. That was never under my department. but
Okay.
I don't
But these
think it
other
was
things
I
ever
are
believe
all
they
under-
received some, I believe they received some funding from the 0.1% for that, if I'm correct. So that's probably why it's in there, but that court was never under my department.
We tried to get that underway at the district court level.
At
and
one point, yeah.
it kind of didn't take.
Yeah.
So a few other things going on at the time. New judges.
There were a lot of things going on at that time, but
Yeah.
the community court's never been a superior court program. It was a district court program. I can't.
But
I don't
there's
really
another
have-
one in the works though, right?
I'm sorry?
There's another one in the works at the district court level.
Correct. And that's what the other position I'm here to talk about on behalf of district court. And this is a little confusing because we're within our offices as well as OFM trying to figure out how to actually manage this from the budget standpoint. It's another case manager. It would be for the proposed new district court drug court that's being put into place to deal with the changes in the drug court, in the drug laws to allow there to be a drug court at the misdemeanor level in district court. Adams people don't have the bandwidth to add another court within their existing folks. So district court is requesting to have a case manager to run and manage that program for district court, a whole new program. I know the police chiefs, there's a number of them here who have been working with district court in order to try and put together a solution for what we anticipate is going to be a significant growth in drug crimes that are at the misdemeanor level in hopes of creating a secondary drug court. The reason I'm here to talk about it and why Adam's sitting there to talk about it is because from a management standpoint, it makes no sense to create a whole nother department to create another drug or therapeutic court. Our proposal would be is that the position be funded on behalf of district court, whether it comes into our budget through drug court or through district court budget is really not, we really don't care. It's just, we need to position our offices through drug court under Adam would manage that position and guide the position and develop the program. So we're not adding a layer of administration. We're just plugging in a new program into existing administration. So it seems to me that's the best, the most fiscally responsible way to approach it. We have a capable manager who can manage another program, but he can't do the hands-on work with the clients. So that's what that request is for. And I'm making that on behalf of district court, where it ends up in the budget really is a matter of convenience to the board and to OFM. Adams told me he can handle payroll through his office. If it's in his budget, district court would handle it through their office if it was in their budget. And again, I think I noticed a number of folks in blue sitting in the back who have been working on this program who I think have a great interest and may have some comments, and I'm happy to turn over the microphone to them after your questions.
District court serves the cities, right? So
It
are the
serves the
cities
s-
kicking in?
It serves
I
the
mean-
cities and the county through the prosecutor's office.
So how much are we asking from the cities?
That I don't know. I know I had some
That's a Molly question,
discussions.
right?
I'm sorry?
Molly knows. She's.
Molly may have that answer. I know I've talked with at least one city manager and they're interested in doing something if there can be an arrangement arranged, because they're very invested in trying to do something, because incarceration costs are through the ceiling right now for the cities, and putting them in a drug court program decreases incarceration costs. And it's frankly, and I won't give you my drug court pitch. You've heard it before. I think it's the best program we do. It's the most successful way to deal with criminal drug addicts. So
But they have to be judges like you in Warning.
we have a whole bunch of judges who are well-trained and are doing really good work with it, including we have a commissioner who handles some of that, but I'll take some kudos for that. I appreciate that.
We're anticipating more business, but we don't really have an idea what it could be.
Well, I think maybe the chiefs could tell you what they're encountering on the street as to what kind of the caseloads they're expecting will be coming into those courts. You want to come up? Yeah, I'm gonna turn the mic over to Molly. I'm just there you go. You can sit over there. I have not been involved in the development of the program. I went to a couple of meetings, but so she can give you a whole lot more details.
So as far as actual drug cart participation, that is what is the variable right now. There's a lot of interest. Scaling it to misdemeanors is kind of an unknown for drug court. That's not something that's been done before too commonly. So that's part of why combining this with the Superior Court program is such a wise idea, we believe. But just numbers wise, in this last quarter, July 1st through October 1st, there were 179 drug possession related charges filed in our court. Most significantly by the city of Longview, but by every jurisdiction. That's where we get that total. It's quite a few charges.
Yeah.
Would you repeat that 175 and
179 in this
Yeah.
last quarter, July 1st to October 1st. 3 months.
Yeah. You know, I sit on council meetings and I know I don't know if they're struggling, but they don't like the increased cost of incarceration and stuff. And I'm not trying to be flip here, but it seems like they want to decrease their incarceration costs. So let's do a drug court and have the county pay for it. That's kind of what I'm getting here. Is that fair?
The drug court conversation started long before the discussion on the increase in the incarceration costs. So there's might be some relation to it, but that is not where these discussions started. For the need for drug court, that came, and I don't know if any of the chiefs want to speak to this also. I mean, we started having discussions maybe in June before the Blake Fix law came into effect on the impact of not having any kind of drug possession law, was what it was having on our community
Yeah.
and what they were seeing and from their perspective, the need to implement a drug court
Yeah.
just to deal with what they were seeing on the streets.
And I'm not
There was
disagreeing
also-
that
There actually was also a change in the state law that allowed CJTA monies to go to municipal and district court drug court programs.
Correct.
So that began the most recent round of discussions about expanding it. And you're right. I mean, it's kind of new territory, I think, in all the counties.
Right.
I might add just a couple of comments, Commissioner. One comment is a district court, drug court is not a new concept. Clark County has one. They have a veterans court. They have a DUI court. So this isn't something we're just pulling out of a hat. This is something that there are good programs that we can model this after. So from that standpoint, I'm very comfortable. This is an appropriate way to deal with this. To your comment about the city saying, hey, you guys take care of this. First off, all of the judges are county judges that handle these. They're district court judges. There's no municipal court judges who are separately elected or appointed. They're all done by through contract with the courts. I haven't explored this, and I don't know if Molly has or if anyone else has, but my discussions with at least one city manager is that they will be interested, I think, in coming up with some sort of MOU to pay some of the costs. So I just think that would be, it probably needs to have everybody say, this is a good idea. Let's bring everybody to the table and figure out how we pay for it. They have some.
I'm not arguing with you on structure. I think if you're going to have it under one umbrella, like your suggestion makes sense. It just struck me that cities are looking to transfer some costs, and that's the question.
Correct. And just for clarification on how municipal courts work, they pay us a per case filing fee in order to be their court. So, they pay for district court services, whatever those may be at this point, but they have expressed interest if additional funding is needed in being involved in that, if it's necessary.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, I mean, I think that's a viable thing. It just needs to be explored. So.
But at this point, we just wanted to get that personnel request in, this all happened right at budget time.
Yeah.
We're still having lots of conversations on how it will look.
I don't know if there's any of the chiefs had any comments you wanted to make. Be happy to turn over the microphone. I don't like to turn my back on guys in blue with guns, so.
Well, yeah, I've got plenty of questions.
For me, or?
It'd probably be for you, I would think, but.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Robert Huda, currently the chief for the Long Beach Police Department. I'm also the chair for our local Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. About 10 days or so ago, I submitted a letter to each of you on behalf that was signed by the local chiefs and sheriff, the director of the jail, and also Ryan Jervicine, the Cowlitz County prosecuting attorney. So I won't take up a lot of time. You have our thoughts on this topic. We're not here to say and tell you guys how to fund these. That's not from our perspective of trying to convey our thoughts to you. Obviously, we're well invested in the criminal justice system and the safety of our communities. And we believe that as part of this change from felony drug crimes to misdemeanor drug crimes, there's a lot of factors that come into play, in particular, drug court. I'm no drug court expert, neither are the other chiefs or the sheriff. But to someone's question about was the city's just trying to pass on these costs to the county, that was never our intention. We have had some wonderful discussions with the district court judges. And then we brought this up to them. What is the possibility of having a drug court on a district court level? That was in direction from our cities or counties or cities to pass on costs to the county. It was simply from the chiefs and sheriffs coming together with the district court judges and say, we have a drug court on a superior court level. Why not on a district court level now that we have a drug crime going to misdemeanors? We recognize that drug court is not a fix-all for the situation that we're facing in our community. It is a situation not in our community, Cowlitz County, but across the state, around the country. There is no one fix-all solution to the problem. But as in our letter addresses, we believe it is a time for all of us to come together as elected leaders in our county, department heads, chiefs, sheriff, jail director, all of us involved in the criminal justice system to figure out how a plan that we can tackle the situation that we have. And so that is our ask. That's why we met with the district court judges in the beginning, is to hopefully maybe come together as leaders and find a solution that is plaguing our community, both on the substance use side and on the mental health side. We have to come together with to implement a plan. There may not be a perfect solution. We know there's not gonna be a perfect solution. I think we would adopt that if someone across the country had that plan. However, I believe that we can come together on a common sense approach that most of us, we can agree with the most of the plan. We may not agree with the entire plan, but I think there's enough common ground that we can reach a consensus on how we move forward for the benefit of our community. When I say our community, I mean Cowlitz County as a whole. That is what we strongly believe as a chief and sheriff in trying to address these issues. Thank you.
Excuse me. So I don't know how to go about this because I know pretty distantly the one odd man out. I would bring people's attention that we are pretty much doing the same thing that we've done for years. And if we were fielding the Seahawks and we lost season after season after season, we'd be thinking about doing other things. We don't seem to be thinking like that, despite the fact that all kinds of problems have arisen from many of the laws that have ensued trying to control the drug trade. And I know I've talked to certainly Judge Basher and I see a lot eye to eye on some things. It's well beyond our control how to change those things. So I can't fault him. You can't really fault me. But we have a problem, and I look at it completely agnostically. I just sit back and say, we're doing these things, and the results aren't very good. Now, if we focus on the typical plea I hear, which says, we saved a life, I have to ask you how much you're prepared to pay to save a life. And everybody gets just totally disgusted. How can you even ask that question? Well, anytime we send on any of our troops into combat, we're saying their life is not as important to us as the objective we explain to them. When you want to go to get a life insurance, they're valuing your life. You're valuing it too. Am I worth 500,000? Well, maybe $1 million. It's only another 10 a month. Anyhow, you can see there's a lot of ambiguity on what's going on, but there's no ambiguity that we're losing the war on drugs. So the question is, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? I can argue that we are part of the problem. I don't want to go down that path right at the moment, but it tears me up because I see people dying because we have driven their desires into a black market. And the black market has no controls over anything around there. So they may think they're taking X, but in fact, they're taking 3X and they die. I think we all have to share a piece of that. But let me go more specifically to drug court. I put together an explanation, and it was published on the Kelso Long Beach Chamber, and I'm sure most of you have seen it. All I'm asking is go down point by point and give me an answer. And I don't get that. I get things like, oh, but you're this, oh, but that. No, I'm asking you for very specific things. I'm telling you things in advance so that you can come to me and say, this is why you're wrong. Now, and here you're wrong too because of this. I look at numbers and I look at the data agnostically. A lot of people involved in this earn a living. And that's, by the way, a side conversation I had with a DEA agent long ago, maybe 8 years ago. And the DEA agent said, there's too many dollars involved. The drug situation will always be here. Everybody along the way makes money. And so there is really no incentive to look for alternate solutions. What I'm proposing here is that we separate mental health court from drug court. And I've asked a question of, do we not violate even the 14th Amendment by saying, you get to drug court, but you get to go to jail? And we even have a concept of justice by the lottery system. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any more slots available, so you're going to have to go to jail. There are all kinds of things that really are bothersome, and I think we're part of the problem. And that's why I'm a loss here. How am I going to say I'm okay with the budget when I think there's things there that are seriously amiss? But I know I'm the odd man out. Anyhow, if any of you would like to, I can send you the Word document so you can edit it and tear it apart.
I guess I'm not familiar with the list that you're talking about. I don't know that I've seen that specifically. I can tell you that, I don't make decisions on what I do in a courtroom or what I do when I'm dealing with people in front of me based on the cost necessarily. I do what is dictated by the legislature as far as laws and circumstances that are in front of me. I don't make a decision whether I put somebody in jail or not based on the cost of putting them in jail. That's not my job.
Right, I agree with
So-
you.
so I don't
That's
make
the
that
argument I
decision.
hear frequently.
I'm sorry.
That's an argument I hear frequently, but not by you. No, I'm not.
I mean, I don't make that decision I make it based on the laws and the facts in front of me.
Yeah,
I think when you make an assessment as to how much is a particular life that we're doing or that we're trying to save, I don't think you can put a value on that. I think we make a decision based on the amount of resources we have, and we try and help as many people as we can. If I take your argument to what I think is probably an illogical extension, I would say, let's get a whole bunch more money, take all the money we get on everything, the road fund, the garbage dump, the mental health money, let's put everybody in drug court. I could actually vote for that because I think that's the program that works the best. There's a lot of people who wouldn't agree with that. I think it's the best bang for the buck. I think the outcomes are demonstrated across the country. It works for the outcomes for the money spent are better than anything else we do. I think we've had that discussion before. That's just my personal belief. I think it's the best thing we do to combat recidivism, which is people coming back and committing more crimes. I think we help put families back together. I don't think you can put a dollar value on that. I'd love to be able to. And then I could say how much it's going to cost to get your kid back or your mom back. Because those are the comments that I get when I do a drug court graduation and I have a 10-year-old girl comes up to me and says, "Thanks for giving me back my mom." How do I place a dollar value on that? I don't know that I can. So I don't. I do the programs that I work on. I do them to the best of my ability with the training that I've been given, and we get good outcomes. We think it's a program that's valuable to the community. I think what we're looking for in requesting this position for the district court drug court is because of the changes in the state laws, which place a bunch of folks who we used to deal with out of Superior Court's jurisdiction. Arguably, they could be filed in Superior Court, but they're typically not. They go into district court. And so we're trying to come up with a similar program that will have the same kind of results. I mean, if you want to fund 10 drug court people, we'll try and expand it, but I don't know that we don't have the space to do that.
I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
If the board wants to fund 10 drug court case aids, we can expand the program. We'd probably need more judges, probably need 7 or 8 judges to do that. We're not asking for that today. We're just simply asking to fund the programs that we think that the community needs. So, and I'd be happy to get into the philosophical discussion. I don't know that that's really what's at issue here.
Agreed. There are some practical elements that, and I'm perfectly happy to deal with practical. And in that sense, I'm saying we all get a good, warm feeling about having done something, but meanwhile, the city around us is on fire. And I'm saying, is there anything we can or should do differently there? For example, while I'm fully thinking the drug laws are ridiculous and they've led to the loss of civil liberties and all kinds of stuff, I can't change that. We can't change,
Correct.
we can't change that, but we could make the county be less hospitable to people who break those laws. So if they want to break them, they have to go elsewhere. We have constant discussions about housing first, no drug test, this and that. It just goes on. And I'm thinking drug court is just a continuation of something I find really strange. If I commit a crime and it's a felony, then I get to go to drug court possibly. If I commit a misdemeanor, not a felony, I get to go to jail possibly. While all the welfare services are freely available or nearly freely available in the county, we got 6 pages worth of entities involved with mental health support, substance abuse support. Why would we want to compel somebody commit a felony before they get access to this? The answer is they don't want access to this at the moment. And I've talked to lots of graduates of get well programs that they've been clean, lapsed, and then they tell me about the 5th or 6th time they decide, I'm not going to do it again. I just think we're spinning our wheels. We feel good about it, but we're spinning on our wheels. And I have the unfortunate task of just being one of those people that's just going to go back and look and say the emperor has no clothes.
I have a question. I don't know.
No, it's a statement that simply says I am unpersuaded that spending more money on drug court is a useful thing to do.
And then we have a difference of opinion, which is, I think, just fine.
Yep.
I think it's the best outcomes that we can demonstrate. Putting people in jail has not been demonstrated to address recidivism very well for people with drug and mental health problems. Putting people in prison has a way higher recidivism rate than putting them through drug court programs. So I just think we should be putting the money where the best outcomes are.
Yeah, you were here when Judge Evans was sitting there, and I said, why not offer this program across the board? Why does somebody have to commit a felony in order to get involved in the program? And he sort of paused for a moment and said, got to think about that one.
Well, there are some practical matters that you can't just put somebody in jail in the United States of America or Cowlitz County unless they've committed a crime. We don't have the ability to do that. That would be a legislative change.
Yeah, but I'm not suggesting that.
Well, that's how drug courts work, is because we have a very large hammer.
No, I
get
was
people to do
suggesting,
something.
I was suggesting that the program is effective because it's got constraints. Now, we sat here when we were taking a look at the proposal from Community House on Broadway, and for the most part, it was rejected because Community House on Broadway was going to have a program not unlike what you guys have, except if you got thrown out of the community house, you wouldn't end up in jail. Here, you'd end up in jail. But the program's the same. But no, we had to have this low barrier thing and so forth. I'm just saying a continuation of the trying to get real understanding of what works and doesn't work is what I'm after.
Okay, well, I've given you data that shows the drug courts work.
Yeah.
I haven't seen other programs that compare to that. So I don't have any comments about the community house program. I'm not familiar with it.
Well, I probably shouldn't admit this, but I fully expect that I will not win that vote, and it's not going to bother me in the least bit. I will have done what I feel is my conscientious part and made the statement.
what, I'm not sure what vote we're talking about. So,
Oh, the vote on the budget essentially, or, you know.
okay. Well, I mean, if you have questions about our requests, I'm happy to answer them.
I'll send you the Word document if the clerk will remind me to do so, because I have Swiss cheese up here.
Sure, I'll be happy to look at it.
Okay,
Anything else?
I think we've kicked that around enough.
Okay, so if you have
Thanks,
additional
Judge.
questions, let Molly or myself know, or Adam, and we can try and flesh out any further details you need.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And again, if you have an interest in having me come back and chat about a 6-judge position approval so we can move forward, be happy to do that. I'm available and will make myself available. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go to the coroner's office. On this request, they're asking for one new position for a, and I don't know if I can say this right, legal investigator? Medical? Yeah, Dana's can help me. And on this request, they're asking for that new position basically to help cover the number of hours that there's providing services. And if they're able to do that, plus the 2 positions that they were approved this year, they will reduce their budget for the line that's called extra help. And that's a $77,000 reduction in the budget. So a net increase of 11,000 basically dollars for their request.
How much?
$11,000 to cover their request because they will be deleting another line item in the budget equal to 77,000.
We recently approved some
Yes.
folks for you, right?
Yes, two positions were approved recently.
And we're talking about adding an additional one now?
Yes.
Yeah, so when we had talked in the past, I said the perfect scenario for us would be 2 more full-time investigators and then a receptionist. And I said, right now, I would be
Okay,
just
got it.
fine with the one. So this would be for next year. In looking at our 24-hour services and everything, we're still lacking another person to cover hours. And then autopsies and all of that stuff. So with one other person, then I think we would be good in covering a 24-hour office. And also that would should eliminate our casual help. And the issue with casual help is I can have a whole bunch of casual help, but when it comes to casual help, they're only available certain times. And then we spend most of our time training them, putting out, all of our efforts to train them to get them out on their own. And then they're not full-time. So they either have a full-time position someplace else or they are getting trained here, which we're spending, county money to train them. And then they get a position offered to them full-time someplace else, either in this field or another field. So then the issue again with casual help is the constant in and out. So I think if we could go to full-time positions and we could eliminate that, and we would have a more steady, solid office with ones that are qualified and able to do the services that the community needs.
You kind of addressed that when we approved the other 2 so it wasn't surprised to see, because I know you kind of had that on your mind.
Yeah.
You have current casual help that would maybe qualify for that position? It's always so hard to hire anybody.
Yeah, my casual help right now that I have are just very limited. So it's putting the extra weight on everybody else. Therefore, it's either overtime or putting it on me. And then I'm not able to do all the other things. So I just think if we could go to full-time positions where we can offer the stability to somebody, then we're not going to have the turnover and the burnout as most everybody sees. And I know that this is always an issue within the coroner's offices too, not just here, but everywhere. And that's been my vision for a long time, and seeing other offices too, and how they struggle and the workload and all of that stuff is to eliminate these positions that are constant turnover, or they're just not available, to something we can offer somebody financial stability. And then also that does better for the community too, because we don't have the turnover, and then we're not having to pay all the money and provide all the training and stuff like that. And once they get up to what they need in order to go out on their own, then it's usually somebody has a availability someplace else, and they go there, which we've just trained them, and then they go someplace else for a full-time position. So.
Okay.
I don't have any questions. I think you explained that to us before, so. Well, good. Thank you.
Okay, then the next one that we have on the list is the Office of Public Defender. And so we have a tab for that. They currently have 22 positions approved, and they have 3 that are currently open positions. Those are all attorney positions, but they're requesting a paralegal in their office and 1 salary adjustment for an existing staff member.
How many legals? 2, you said?
One
A paralegals?
paralegals. Yeah, okay.
I caught it.
I didn't.
So I can just address that. I can't believe our office existed as long as it did without a paralegal. We more recently, created that position. It's been filled pretty much immediately. We got some very good applicants and filled that position. And with that, it's specialized work. It's becoming very apparent that an additional paralegal would really streamline our workflow, the way we process the amount of discovery, which is evidence that we get provided for all of the cases we get. Paralegals are really the professional legal assistant that helps then with the attorney with everything from legal research, jury instructions, preparing motions, to more specialized work hand in hand with the attorneys on staff. We still do have, as was just mentioned, the 3 open positions. We are getting applicants since the last time I saw the commissioners, which is exciting. Paralegals really do help pick up the slack that we've experienced with the open positions. And then when fully staffed, they'll be even busier. So.
Question for you. Last time you were in, you showed us some charts and made the comment that, you know, we amassed quite a backlog during the COVID shutdown stuff, and that we were working through that. Does this position help move that process even more? Is the skills in that position help unclog that?
Yes, is the short answer to that. Yes. Body cam videos have now become the status quo, mandated by statute. So the amount of, like I'm saying, the videos that need to be uploaded, watched, broken down, kind of narrated, it's a lot of work. So even from misdemeanors up to serious felonies, there's body cams that need to be watched, need to be digested and kind of narrated in written form, so we know what we're dealing with. It might be a 2-hour video where only 5 minutes of it is evidence, so to speak, that can actually be presented at trial. So the paralegal is an essential part of the backlog processing.
Sometimes backlogs aren't always a result of the people that make the decisions on whatever it is, but it can get bottlenecked that you can't get them up to the people that make the decisions. So that's what I'm trying to get at here is can we get them up there faster and more efficiently?
Agreed, yes.
I'm okay with the parallel.
Okay, and then the other request is,
The other request is for their office manager for a salary change on their office position there. That's a total of $5,000 annually.
You're just bringing somebody on par with
par with
a like
another.
position over at
yes,
prosecutors.
well, with the
Yes.
elected position, the prosecutor, his office manager, for all intents and purposes, is called an office administrator. It's something I never really paid attention to until we did the more recent adjustment of the attorney's rate of pay. And I noticed a great imbalance between basically the office manager across the street and our office manager. So this would match the salary rates.
You just don't want Ryan stealing anybody, do you?
It does help our office get applicants and so forth when our rate of pay is the same, yes.
Yeah.
Probably should have just always kept my mouth shut, but I'm okay with this. But I really don't think it's a legitimate argument to say the PA's office says this or that, and I'm aligning it with it. Either the employee is doing your job that you feel should be compensated or not. And if you can take a look at me in the eye and say, yes, I don't have any questions. But when you come with me with that, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't really know how to think about things.
I would only say it's both in this situation. The work that my office manager does is very similar to that's done across the street, but.
I know, but you're asking me to judge something with a denominator of something I don't really know in the first place.
Right.
So dividing by 0 gives you a rather large number.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Those are my requests after this afternoon. It's pretty straightforward.
The complaints that make it to my office are just, when are we going to get justice, or when are we going to, how things are going to move? So that's kind of forms my question. Are these people going to help move this ball through the pipe? And if it does, then hopefully we'll see those results.
That is the goal. Yes.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the treasurer's office, and this is a change. There's only one new position in the request for a senior accountant to help support the office. And the other changes are title changes and salary changes. And this office, the treasurer's office, currently has a total of 9 FTEs, 9 positions. And this has previously been workshopped a bit already with the commissioners.
We've talked
Yes.
about this, have we
Mhm.
not?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I'm good with that. I've
Yeah.
admired how the department operates, so,
Yeah.
okay.
but don't quote me.
All right. If you don't have any questions, I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, and the next request is the assessor's office. And so on this one, we have one new position, but we actually, it says 3 new positions, but I'm counting that 2 of those positions are consumed by the 2 that are eliminated. And so there's really a net new of only 1 position. And then there's a few salary changes. And there's one position that's actually going from full-time to part-time. So that's showing as a reduction in budgetary impact.
Yeah.
And this has previously been workshopped as well.
We've talked this one over too. You just are doing some restructure
Mhm.
and it really
For greater efficiencies in the office.
not much effect to the bottom line. It's less than 25 grand each year. So.
Right.
And ultimately, no problem. Can you hear me? Ultimately, the goal is that we will have a retirement sometime in 2024. It's not shown on here, but if we can sustain it, I don't intend on refilling that retirement. So if that's the case, the 2025 budget could reflect about a 65,000 reduction in my budget. But again, that's the goal. I would come to you guys if for some reason the data shows that we can't sustain with that reduction.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable. You look things over pretty tight. Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then our last item for today is the sheriff's office is requesting one new position. And this is a detective position. And their department, I had to have 2 pages to do their positions, but that's because they have several positions. But they have a total of 53 positions in the sheriff's office. And then, of course, they have some additional positions that are in other areas like law enforcement records, law and justice. And then one position they share with primarily with public works.
Thank you. Oh, I think the sheriff was talking about this. This is for a person to do the digital. I got to watch him, person work on that track. You're talking about where you're tracking people.
Probably referring to the geotime program. That's
Yeah.
one of 6 different suites that we have.
Yeah.
It's probably some of the most technical work that we do at the sheriff's office. This work is always growing, more digital devices being out in the world. We have more crimes that are facilitated. So I have an outline here. If you'd like, I can read it off to you. Let you read it at your leisure. This is a field that is expanding. We are already at 26 cases involving digital forensics for the year. Previously, we were averaging about 23 cases a year, so we're well ahead in 23. My goal is to pair this position with the work that we are doing. Sorry. The work that we are also doing to maintain our staffing with our employee background investigations. For all of our applicants, we're required by statute to do these background investigations. Those take about 40 hours of labor for each applicant. And we had an average of 18 of those per year for the last 4 years. So roughly 18 weeks of labor. This work on digital forensic investigations would pair well with those tasks. And that person would also be able to act as a subject matter expert, training other detectives in these technical skills, maintaining some of the training and expertise that some of our investigators have picked up in this field, keeping it in use, and solving more crimes to help the citizens of Cowlitz County.
I'm trying to, it's been a while since I've been over there and I'm trying to remember back, the equipment we have, not everybody has this, right?
Correct.
And I think we have some specialty in that, do we not help out other counties at times?
So just this week, we took a case for Kalama. It's a child sex offense that we are processing that evidence for them. We've assisted Wahkiakum County Sheriff's Office, occasionally Fish and Wildlife. If they have, say, a poaching case, they have some digital evidence. We've helped the smaller cities, Woodland, Kalama, Castle Rock, but recently we also assisted the Kelso Police Department with a major child sex investigation. And with our equipment and our software and our detectives' expertise, We are able to find new evidence that led to 41, I believe, felony charges. The subject is pleading guilty with a sentencing range of 500 months. We also uncovered additional victims and an additional suspect that has now been charged. So this work that they're doing is immeasurable. A lot of these cases do have victims that are children. And being able to stop these kinds of crimes, prevent additional victims from being victimized, makes this work very important.
Yeah. So do we get reimbursed for some of that time? I guess what I'm getting at is some of the cost of what we're seeing here. There may be some, it's possible, excuse me, stuff could come back that.
Typically, when we are doing assistance for another agency, we are performing an extraction for them. We'll kind of give them a crash course in how to review it. Generally, in law enforcement, we have a pretty good informal system of helping each other out.
Okay.
We definitely benefit from other cities helping us out. When just the other night, we had Castle Rock, Longview, and Washington State Patrol help us with an armed subject. So it's kind of an informal system, but we do all help each other out when we can.
Don't carry a cell phone and don't drive a car with any GPS.
Don't do what? Sorry?
Make sure your car is very old and you don't have a cell phone
Well,
because they know where you're at.
well, along those lines, that's the only problem I have here is I watched the Columbo show and he drives a pretty well beaten up thing. And he's a detective. Actually, I've had a problem, a long-term problem, that every deputy comes on has to have his rather expensive automobile. And at some point, like if you had 5 people in the department, definitely everybody should have its own vehicle. But when you get a large enough group, then the law of large numbers starts to play. And I wish the sheriff would review his policy about why everybody gets a full-fledged cruiser, if you will. I mean, that's a lot of money that's going into that.
I was just being facetious. If you're doing anything bad, do it with old equipment. Because I watched, and I think that's a specialized position. I don't think like any officer can sit in has that person's chair and do it, because they have to, when they go to court with that, there's some kind of protocol that you have.
There's training and certifications for several of these
that
platforms.
takes for that. And the thing they showed me was using different cameras that just happened to be within the deal and cell phones. This was a drive-by shooting thing, and they're able to track these. It was quite amazing, actually. Yeah, so I understand the specialty of it. And
I even played and wrote some software for using
did you?
For locating off of cell phones, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. You probably still got a bug in some, and
I cannot tell.
Yeah.
Actually, there are stories, but never mind.
Is there any other questions I can answer for you?
I don't have anything. I think I understand what you're looking at here, just because I was able to watch it work. It was, yeah.
You gave me the extra copy for Dennis?
Sure, I'll read one.
Oh, you actually did.
Oh, they're 2 different documents.
Oh, 2 different docs? They look the same.
Well, and I
Oh,
had some
one says
requests.
outline and one says request.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other,
No, that concludes the requests that we have.
any, let me ask, because I always forget this.
Yeah.
Any questions from the audience or online on anything? I see Tracy has her hand up. Tracy?
Oh.
Am I reading that right?
I don't see any hands.
Oh, now it disappeared.
Tracy had one item, or.
There
had-
she is.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, Tracy had an item where she was reducing the allocation to building and planning for one of the positions. that's shared between sheriffs and public works, et cetera. And so we're going to probably talk about that position when Public Works comes on the 18th.
Okay,
They needed a little bit more time to make the decision on where to pick up the rest of the pieces, the sources for that position.
is that
Okay,
what,
I didn't know it
what you
was
wanted to
split.
touch on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
we
just
had-
wanted we pay for the deputy out of our permitting fees and we don't utilize them. So I was just gonna see where we could, I know Public Works, we've worked with them, but I don't think they have to brunt all the expense as well. So I think that's what Kathy was waiting for.
Right, right.
Okay. I thought I was
So-
on the list, sorry.
You were on the list and so last minute change at the request of the sheriff's office for us to have a little bit more time to look at where we can place place that position and not
Fair
bring
enough.
it all onto general fund.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
there's a couple of ideas floating around. That's it.
any other questions, comments?
A more general question probably for you and for Kathy. How do you see us going forward? The end point here will be December 5th or 12th or something like that?
I hope it's December the 5th. That's what we have on our calendars. We're
December
shooting for
5?
December 5th
Yeah.
for approval of the,
And at that
budget.
point, we will get all this data in one little package and we're supposed to say yay or nay on the package.
Well, my personal preference, I hope I'm a little earlier because I see all the requests. Now I need to see what we call revenues, the taxes,
how we're going to.
and
cover
how
it
we
all.
gonna fund it. And if those two don't match, then we have some tough decisions to make.
Right.
Right. And so I'm asking what in the past, it wasn't. There was one budget where Joe Gardner voted against it because he didn't want to take the levy shift. It was fine with everything else except the levy shift. So we're in a situation here where I suppose I didn't like drug court and you didn't like something else.
I got you.
So you went negative, I went negative, and then what?
Yeah, I guess I would suggest, and just like I suggested on community house, if we all kind of seeing this at a little different, maybe we need a workshop. I would hope maybe the commissioners would have a workshop, and I realize it's public, but to look over the entire thing, especially if the numbers don't match and where we thinking we're gonna
We have a workshop.
adjust.
Yeah, we have still a few more workshops and one workshop is about revenues and about the levies. And so what I was anticipating is that we would, at that time, we would talk about before that or at that session, we would talk about, do we have enough revenue sources to cover the request? And if we don't, how do you prioritize those?
Yeah.
And I would have everything on one sheet,
Yeah,
basically to, Figure
that's
out.
good.
yeah. My hope would be that the actual approval of it would just be a formality because we've
Right.
hashed everything out before.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
What I don't want to see, and I don't know what makes me think I don't want to see it, but if we get down to the line and in these discussions, we haven't had a heartfelt discussion, which I tried to offer, then I don't want to get to the end of the line and somebody say, well, I'm not going to vote on it because of this.
No, I
So-
agree with you. I think we need to have, even though it's a good
Painful.
possibility that all those discussions aren't going to be comfortable. But I would hope when it comes to voting that it's actually a formality because we've had those before and we know where we're at.
and that's the purpose of setting up all your different workshops to get you ready for that final discussion about how do we prioritize the request.
Okay. I think we're on the same page there.
I think we are, and I'm glad we're having multiple sessions because this can be very difficult and
Oh, yeah, to consume at one time.
and then when you go back to your office and you think, did I really say that? Did I really do that? that doesn't make any sense. And then what? You really need to be able to be challenged time and again.
Yeah, but we do, I mean, you just saw today, just in personnel request, it's close to $1 million.
Yeah,
And then we
I saw that.
also, not on top of that, we also have many collective bargaining agreements that are in the process. So there's quite a few commitments that are laid out here already.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind asking, so you've got, let's say you come to the end of the line and it looks like we're gonna have 2 million if we include something of COLA and the new hirees or the new staff. What does that do to us just off the top of your head?
Well, I think you asked a question maybe a week or so ago, and I do believe that you're going to have to look at your levies. You're going to have to. I don't think you can defer. And I forgot the terminology.
Yeah. So if we ignore the fund balance at the end of the year and we say, are we going to be even throughout the year? You're saying we're not with that kind of.
Right.
And we're not by $1 million? Just your guess.
Yeah, it's over $1 million.
It's along $1 million, okay.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out where we can collect another million or
where we can save $1 million.
Right.
Correct, save $1 million, but it doesn't necessarily need to be saved this 2024, say. It could be like we heard some people say people are retiring and we don't replace them.
Right.
And how many people are retiring out of here every year? It's quite a number, I think. We've
Yeah.
had a lot of long-term employees.
Should have counted the plaques we've handed out so far this year.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the answer
Yeah.
to that.
I from the beginning, I fully expected it may be some tough decisions and that's why I think it's so important that we tackle some of those before we ever get to the final and figure out what we want to do. You give us a report and I know the sales tax, we're getting more than we did last year, but it's slowing down from previous years.
It has slowed down from your previous.
The rate of increase is not that much. And so if it's slowing down, what that means is the taxpayer isn't spending as much, which means you can infer that they're struggling a little bit more, they don't have the income to spend out there. So then in my mind, I have to be frugal because I can't just ask them for more of something they don't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple other things in the budget, like we've been very conservative on what we actually budget for sales tax, which has been good and prudent. But we probably need to budget a little bit closer to what we probably expect to receive.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
going to help a little bit. So.
Totally agree. We should try and be true on both sides of the ledger.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with the levy shift that has been used by us in the past?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so that may be a decision we face also.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, you had a levy shift previously that's available to you?
There's several, there are at least two kinds of things where we can take funds out of the road fund. And one of them is, I forget the details. The levy shift, I forget some of the details here, but that's the one where in effect, we take money from the road fund. What happens when we do that, the municipalities actually get their property tax a little bit higher. I don't think it's very noticeable or noticeable at all. So it's a levy shift, putting more burden on the municipalities, but what it gives us is dollars for the general fund without strings attached. And last year we didn't take it. The year before, I don't think we took it, but prior to that, we had as much as a 2.5 million a year shift.
Hmm,
That's pretty significant.
yeah,
And I don't think there is much of a cap there. I mean, I think we could have taken a 10 million shift, but
Yeah, but we haven't had our discussion yet with Public Works.
Yeah.
That would
oh,
represent.
I can
roads.
tell you what they're gonna say.
Yeah.
No and hell no.
yeah.
But
So,
I'll be honest with you, I struggle with that myself. If taxpayers are paying funds into the roads,
yeah,
to take it out of it,
yeah,
it's open for discussion. I'm just telling you, it makes me cringe a little bit.
it makes you feel like somehow somebody put a loophole in the law that you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't use.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it-
And I almost feel like I'm punishing the department for
yeah,
using their funds wisely.
yeah.
Huh? Oh, now we got Public Works jumped on. Do they want?
Well, they don't want.
We're not shifting anything today.
We're not shifting anything today. I think would be prudent to let them have they have their workshop coming.
there
up.
is Savannah.
Yeah.
So-
Don't go away, Savannah. So just as a reminder, do you remember when we last did a levy shift?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. I've got Mike here too.
Hi.
Yeah. You've got Mike Moss there? Oh, dear.
Oh, no. And Susan.
Susan heard the levy shift,
What
so they're all.
We have
So
sirens
they're-
that go off in the office when you talk about levy shifts.
We're not, no decisions have been made.
Right,
You just made my
and-
work to be more convincing when we're there, so why we can't levy shift.
No, Mike and I have had this conversation and I think he knows my opinion on it fairly strongly, so.
Good.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Morgan is just bringing up how we've dealt with things in the past.
Yeah,
This is just because I feel that's a little history that'll help you
Yeah.
see some things as they come along. I think you and I are on the same page regarding we can spend ourselves into a irretrievable hole.
Yeah.
And like I said before, every little request is rational. But in the collective, you have an irrational
right.
demand.
So I think it's what I would like to suggest is that I prepare as a little bit more time goes on, I prepare a summary of all of the requests that you at least see it in summary format, new personnel, this request, things like that. Some estimates and get you some better estimates. So
Okay.
that's all I have today.
Okay. No, I appreciate your work on this.
One other thing are you the 1% that we can take on the property tax? We'll have to discuss that too.
Yeah.
And then there's a catch up because we didn't take it last year.
And that's what I was referring to. That was the topic. I was saying the 1% as well as the catch up that I think you had mentioned,
Yeah.
Sean. Those are the items I think that really should be on the table
Yeah,
and that
they
I
don't-
would advocate for.
Surprisingly enough, they don't amount to much.
Yes, I know.
A couple
but-
100K
but-
maybe.
Yes, I think I estimate it's about 200,000
Yeah.
on the 1%, but it's monies that we will need in order to address some of the requests that we have sitting here. So
Okay. All right. See no others. Thanks for your time and your work, Kathy. I appreciate it.
okay, and we're going to redo the summary pages for a lot of the departments to that format that has, it'll have, if they have revenue, there'll be a line that shows a historical pattern of their revenue. And then also their expenditure line, and then also fund balance. So we're going to redo all of the summary sheets for all
Okay.
the departments.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you have anything? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
I'm looking for it. There was something I have flagged. Oh, did you look at the letter from the COG?
I did.
Okay.
Personally think we should probably discuss that.
In executive session?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we have the full board.
when we have a full board.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would guess Monday or Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing no other further, we will adjourn. Thank you. Remember, no meeting tomorrow. No meeting tomorrow.